While additional support is on the way for vulnerable Canadians, that was the message we heard today from the Prime Minister. It was given at his daily briefing in front of Rideau Cottage. Ottawa investing millions of dollars to support seniors, youths, and the homeless. Now, coming up, we're going to hear from the Minister of Seniors, Deb Schulte. That is just in a few minutes. But as I mentioned, to that announcement from the Prime Minister, seniors across the country will soon be getting $9 million to help provide essential services.
Our seniors are particularly vulnerable to COVID-19. We all know that, and it's for them that so many of us are staying home, are self-isolating, are following the rules. But even if they're safe and isolated, this is not easy on them. Maybe they're having trouble getting out to get groceries. Maybe they're feeling particularly alone. Maybe they've already been isolated, and this is just an extra degree of stress on them.
And as we said, the Prime Minister also announcing additional support for youth, women's shelters, and the homeless. Our David Cochrane has the details for us from Ottawa.
Two specific announcements from the Prime Minister today, Michael, and really showing that as a society which has cracks in the system at the best of times, those cracks really widen at the worst of times, and I think this certainly qualifies. So to back up what you said about the seniors announcement, $9 million is going to go to the United Way to buttress programs that do health check-ins on seniors who may live alone and may be isolated and not have someone to look after them, and also for meal delivery for people who maybe can't get out to buy their own groceries, or because of medical issues or just impairment they may not be able to cook their own meals. The United Way is going to get $9 million to help expand those programs. And he also announced $7.5 million, Michael, for the Kids Help Phone. This is a stressful time for children and young people who can't leave home, and their home may be a difficult and dangerous place at the best of times, with that danger amplified by the situation right now and the requirement for everyone to stay at home. So $7.5 million for the Kids Help Phone to hire more counselors and more trained volunteers to make sure that that support is there for kids in Canada 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in English and French, so that they have someone to turn to if those support systems don't exist inside their own home.
So as we said, focusing on the most vulnerable in this country. But let's also talk about the ministers, because there were some ministers speaking out today. What stood out for you as you were listening to them?
Yeah, two big things. I mean, we're asking everyone to stay home and to work from home as much as they can. Well, what if you don't have a home, or what if your home is not a safe place? So there's Ahmed Hussein, who's the Minister of Family, Children and Social Development, $157 million for the Reaching Home National Homeless Strategy. That is a top-up over and above what homeless organizations and homeless shelters get on an annual level, and they can use that in any way they want, for personal protective equipment for people, for medical equipment, or just acquiring additional space as more homeless people or housing vulnerable people need to turn to them for services and support in this point in time. And $50 million for women's shelters. Again, like we just talked about with the Kids Help Phones, for people who are being asked to stay home, but where their home may not be safe at the best of time, and that danger is simply exacerbated by these difficult times and the extra stress there. So $207 million there to expand shelter capacity and meet shelter needs at the local level right across the country.
Okay, let's also talk about Dr. Theresa Tam, of course, part of the daily briefing that we get every day from Ottawa. So talk to us about the latest that we're hearing from her.
Yeah, she was asked a question about whether she saw anything in the data that either gave her hope or concern, and she referenced what we've seen from British Columbia, where there is early modeling and suggestions that the social distancing measures, the physical distancing measures that they've adhered to are starting to work in slowing the spread. The key point she made, I think, Michael, is that this coming week is a critical one for Canada, and the data will really tell us something, because it's been about 2 weeks since a lot of Canadians started coming back from either spring break or their snowbird stays in the warmer states in the United States, and the data will start to give us a sense, because of the incubation period of the virus, just how many of them brought back the virus and how much. And also, it's been about 2 weeks since the aggressive lockdown measures happened in provinces and cities across the country, asking people to stay home, closing schools, asking people to work from home. We'll start to see the impact of that reflected in the rates of spread and increase in the data that becomes available. So no obvious comment from Dr. Tam about hope or despair just yet, but a heads up from Canada's top doctor that what we're going to see in the next week will tell us a very important story of where Canada is right now.
And of course, we'll be tracking that for you right here on CBC News Network. Our David Cochran in Ottawa. So let's get back to the money now being promised for seniors. What exactly will this influx of cash mean? To answer that question, we are now joined by Deb Schultz. She is Canada's Minister for Seniors and joins us right now in Vaughan, Ontario. So Minister, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Michael, for having me on your show.
Very happy to have you. Listen, I want to begin with the money itself. How do you see this being used going forward?
So this is an opportunity to reach out to those that are having more challenges than the average person in this crisis, our more vulnerable citizens and our seniors. So this money is to go to the United Way Canada so that it can be distributed through their agencies that are already on the ground. This is the way that the money will go, ground up to support those more vulnerable and our seniors that are definitely more isolated at this time and are facing real challenges getting the services and the supports that they need.
Exactly what kind of need are you hearing from the frontline workers will this money address, do you think?
So there's a variety of different ways that this money can help. The money is going to be able to be used to support seniors in getting their necessary medications, their essential requirements like food, and be able to help connect them to their networks. Many may only have a phone, they may not have internet, they may not have family, they may be homeless, and they need supports to be able to help them connect with services and also with their family members and with their friends. So this money can be used to help with the volunteers. We have a lot of people stepping forward in this difficult time to help out, do deliveries, to make phone calls, to support in a variety of different ways. So this is where the agencies can use that money for those kind of things to support seniors that are more isolated.
Okay. And again, the dollar figure that we're talking about here that was announced by the Prime Minister today is $9 million for the United Way. I'm wondering about other service providers. Will more money flow to other charitable organizations as well, or is the United Way enough given the fact that it actually deals with a number of smaller organizations?
Well, you already mentioned in your show that there's money going to the Kids Help Phone to focus on supporting the youth and children at this difficult time. You also mentioned the $157 million that's going to support the homeless. There is other money going to help Indigenous and women's organizations that you already mentioned as well. So there is money going out to support different vulnerable groups from the government at this time. And obviously, we are looking at the need and assessing on a daily basis, hourly basis at times, on what other needs and what other supports could be required to support Canadians through this difficult time.
Mm-hmm. Through this difficult time, and I guess part of the challenge here is we actually don't know how long this difficult time is going to last. So $9 million is what's promised today, but does that mean to say that there is the possibility of more?
As the Prime Minister has said almost every morning in his talk, there's nothing off the table. We're looking every day to adjust what we need as we see the needs arise. And so I would say at this point, we're watching closely to see the needs, and we will then assess what more we may need to do. And it's quite likely there will be more needed if this goes on much longer.
Okay.
And it will. It's likely to go on. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's going to be potentially months. So there is definitely an interest in looking to see what else we need to do.
Okay. How quickly will the money flow, though, Minister? How quickly will we see the impact of these dollars if there is someone out there that has a vulnerable senior in their life or has someone that they can think of that might be helped? How quickly will this money reach them?
The money is available now, and so it will be flowing through the United Way organizations. So they're already doing this work. So I think people need to connect with those organizations in their community that are typically supporting seniors and are connected with the United Way. Many are. And so the money is flowing now, and the money is available now, and the organizations are on the ground. They just needed more support to be able to do more work and support the good work that they're doing.
Okay, well, that money announced at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, so just a few hours ago. And Minister, thank you for giving us a bit more information. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it as well. And stay tuned. More to come. Thank you.
And that is Deb Schultz, the Minister for Seniors in Vaughan, Ontario.